Imagine a world where the more successful you become, the lonelier you feel. Where your professional achievements, the very things you fought for, suddenly turn into barriers to finding love. This isn't a plot from a dystopian novel. It's the reality for millions of high achieving women worldwide. And today we will shatter the myth that ambition and partnership cannot coexist and explore how to reclaim your power in both the boardroom and the heart. So get ready to redefine what is possible when you refuse to let society's limitations dictate your destiny. Joining us to ignite this critical conversation is Dr. Sandy Toe, a Cambridge trained sociologist, boundary breaking author, and global voice on women's empowerment through partner choice. Her groundbreaking book, China's Leftover Women, exposes the harsh discrimination professional women face in marriage markets worldwide. While her work with media giants like CNN, and Financial Times has sparked global dialogue. Sandy does not just study societal norms, she dismantles them, equipping women with actionable strategies to find love on their own terms. She is revolutionizing how we navigate career, identity, and relationships. So, welcome, Sandy. I am honored to have your wisdom on the show. How are you doing?
Thank you, Helena, for having me. Yeah, I'm doing great. Yeah,
I'm
glad
really
to be
looking
here.
forward to this conversation.
Mhm.
What you are researching and what you have been bringing to the world is something that so many of us struggle with. And so I'm very interested to find out more about your research in terms of what is globally relevant. But first of all, let me ask you, why do you consider yourself a boundary breaker?
I think that as usually the repertoire is usually like how successful women navigate work or navigate their own lifestyles or navigate like family and work balance. But I think that one area is neglected, and that was why I chose to research this for my PhD, was single career women. Like, what difficulties do they face and what discrimination do they face being single women in the marriage market? So that's one thing that I think that's a boundary I think that hasn't really been touched for so long or ever, because people assume that like career women, they have it all, right? Like they have their remarkable career, they have their high education, and they're going places, and they must have a very fulfilling life, and they've got it all together, all put together. But it's neglected by the outside world and themselves as well, because I think career women themselves, they become too busy to be mindful of what's missing in their lives. In terms of relationships, I think that I've broken this boundary. I've tapped into somewhere that hasn't been tapped into. I think that I want to do something that can benefit legions of single, high-powered career women out there who've neglected their intimate lives at the expense of their careers.
How does this relate to your own life? Do you feel that you have been or you are surrounded by women in a similar situation?
Definitely. Yeah, yeah. I think what instigated me to do my research is possibly was because I was a single, highly educated woman with a PhD before I got married. That was, yeah, quite a few years ago. And also, I was surrounded by women who are highly educated, and some are having PhDs, and some have like very distinguished degrees, and they're all working like in a very high-powered like career. Yeah, I was definitely inspired by myself, my situation, and people around me having difficulties navigating this area.
Yeah. Why don't a lot of single accomplished women address their relationship needs in the same way as they address their professional career?
I think it's because the one thing is that's hindering them, I think is really interesting and not often approached, is that they themselves, like, they also think that they're very put together, and they don't realize until they find it to be a problem. and it's leaving it rather late as well. Like they've devoted so much time developing their careers and going into their studies that they've also neglected the fact that they may have wanted something else for their love lives. Like they think that what they have might be enough, and by the time they realize that they've neglected their love lives and they want to find a partner, then it may be a little bit difficult. The more and more difficult, because the more, the higher that you reach, the more difficult that it will become, and the less time you have as well to address this area. And they're also, unfortunately, they're influenced by maybe ongoing feminists, the ongoing talks about feminism, about how you're fine just being by yourself. Like what you have is enough and you don't need a man. I'm not saying that to think in a regressive way that you can't be complete just being by yourself. Yeah, I respect other people's choices. There are a lot of people who choose to be self-sufficient, like they're self-sufficient. But the thing is, a lot of people they mistake self-sufficiency for not wanting something, right? So you can be totally self-sufficient, totally okay with dealing with yourself. You can take care of yourself like remarkably well. But the thing is, it's different from wanting a companion, isn't it? You're not looking for someone to take care of you financially because you're probably very well equipped yourself, being so like high powered, having such a good career and everything. So like people, like women, they very often mistake wanting a man with needing a man. You may not need someone physically or financially, but you may want like a companion to be with you, right? To share your hopes and joys, to share your trials and tribulations. So I think that's one common mistake and quite regrettable one, that women would be influenced by all this, like this notion that they're having to rely on someone, and but they're too strong to admit it probably,
Yeah.
but relying on someone in the sense of companionship and not financial security or something like that.
Yeah. So, how do you look at the societal norms? Because when women are looking for a soul partner or a life partner or a love relationship as an individual, and you put this in the system, in the societal norms, you are expected to get married, you are expected to live together, you are expected to do a lot of things together. And then there's the conscious and unconscious biases that still are there, in terms of they even come more explicit based on research done with younger boys, like how they see women and how they see women and their self-sufficiency. It's only the last 100 years that we have won the right to have our own bank account, the right to vote, the right to go to university, and that we are entering the professional market at the higher levels, not just to clean or to pour coffee. There's nothing wrong with that, but we are accepted at the higher levels. And so we as individuals have been developing a different way of life, a different lifestyle. We have defined our success on our terms. We have defined how we can design our lives. But still, there is society and expectations where there's always this, still, in a lot of countries, patriarchism that
Mm.
is consciously or unconsciously entering these kind of relationships. How do you deal with that? Because this is extremely impactful. And it's also one of the reasons, probably, you do the research, I have the conversations, why so many women at a higher level, high achieving women say, why would we bother? Because there is a system, there is a pattern that constantly pushes us into a relationship pattern that we are not looking for. Do you
Mm.
recognize that from your study? And how do you deal with that as a woman? How do you have the conversations then with potential love or life partners in order to have that cleared out from the beginning and set the expectations in a different way?
Yeah. As regards patriarchal norms, like that is the reason why a lot of women have problems with finding a partner because it's exactly because they're discriminated against in the marriage market and they're passed over for women who aren't career minded, right? So who aren't as high powered. Men would probably want to choose someone at the end of the day who's more domesticated and less high powered and less high achieving so that their egos are less threatened. Yeah. So,
That's
so
very direct language, and I get goosebumps and go into resistance. But is this really the result of your research? Can you really state that this is how, yeah, how the
mhm.
situation still is? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, even if in our society, in most advanced societies, most countries of the world, there are more women university graduates than men nowadays.
Yeah.
It's a proven statistic. But unfortunately, the culture has not gotten there. Like the patriarchal culture is still overriding. It still is ha hasn't caught up with the reality, right? So a lot of men, they still want to find someone who's less intimidating. They feel intimidated by women's success, and that is actually like the main difficulty that my single professional women that I've interviewed have. They have constantly expressed that their like love interests were threatened and they didn't want to continue with the relationship when they found out where they worked or how much money they earned, and they didn't even want to go matchmaking with them because like one area which is really interesting for a lot of cultures, not even Chinese cultures, but being set up, being match made by it's either your friends, probably in Western countries it's more your friends setting you up. In Chinese culture, in Asian culture, it's sometimes family or parents, right? So the setup, it's called matchmaking. And so a lot of women who like actively wanted to find a partner, like they found that, okay, I suddenly have this epiphany that my career itself is not enough, and it would be great to share it with a partner. It would be great to get married and have kids. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm looking for. And so they set off to get match made, right? Like they want someone to introduce a suitable partner to them, a suitable man. But the thing is, the men, like, had going through the list of the women's criteria, like, for instance, where they went to school, they went to, wow, this Ivy League school in the US, or like Oxbridge in the UK. And I'm like a lesser tier. I went to a lesser tier one, or this woman works as a partner in this law firm while I'm only working towards that myself. And so they don't want to continue with the matchmaker. Like they want to they have explicitly told the matchmaker that they're not going to get to know this woman at all because of this external
Yeah.
criteria. So
Mm.
they're blatantly rejected sometimes, and nothing can be more telling of that, right? Without even getting to know, without even meeting up, actually, without even meeting up with these women, they look at the external criteria, the economic criteria, as we say, and they're definitely threatened, and they just don't want to, they want nothing to do with these women.
This is not very optimistic view, Sandy. So how do you deal with that? What's the thing here?
Yeah, so I have my different types of women who encounter these patriarchal problems in the marriage market, that encountering discrimination from men in the marriage market because of their achievements. And so they have various resources to deal with them. They're not passive recipients of this discrimination. And believe it or not, they didn't get where they are by being passive. Right? So
Mm.
if you're really talented and smart and successful, you're going to transcribe this. You're going to translate this into the marriage market too. Having been successful in the work market, they're going to take this intelligence into their love lives too. So they do deal
Mm.
with it. Believe it or not, the different types of women who are discriminated against, who face different types of discrimination from men. So the one that I talked about, the matchmaking bit, like the blatantly rejected by men because of their achievements ones, some of them, they would tell me, you know what, if the matchmaker is not successful, and I'm gonna take it into my own hands, and I'm not actually gonna tell them on the outset what I am, right? Because I want them to meet me first. Why not get to
Yeah.
know me first, the real me? Because all this economic criteria, it's just a facade, right? I'm all these diplomas and these like degrees and this work achievement thing, this occupational status, it's all like a facade, and there's like me inside. If people are rejecting me because of this, then I'm probably not going to say what it is. This is not like telling a lie, it's just revealing later. So it's like
Mhm.
undercover boss. Like they want people to know who they are first, meet up first, and get to know the real them and like them first. And then they might slowly reveal who they are on paper.
Does that work with all the social medias active? If you just Google
Mm-mm-mm.
somebody, you immediately know they're the CEO of this organization or the global VP of that
Mm-mm-mm.
organization. So how do you deal with that? Because especially at a higher
Mm-mm-mm.
level, you have a very public profile, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess in I guess like in this day and age, it's inescapable to have a public profile, perhaps. Yeah, but in terms of that, I have one friend, sorry, what one of my interviewees. Yeah, one of my interviewers, she successfully found someone, but she has a PhD and an MBA and a host of really glorious degrees and stuff. And but when she had met her like one love interest, like she didn't tell them that she was studying for a PhD then, because like back then she had not actually had a very publicized profile herself yet. But the thing is, one thing you can do is to keep it like low key and not keep mentioning it. So you know what? So what if people have found it online? The thing is, if they have met you first, the thing is that they don't need to know your whole title or name yet. Like before they've searched, you
So
come
you
out, like the
mean, yeah.
matchmaker introduces you, you come out and you had a good time, and then you never mentioned your economic criteria yet, and you acted just normal, not like in a job interview, and
Yeah.
you didn't really emphasize what you do. You kept it low key. But afterwards, if they do after they've known this, oh, this really awesome girl, and then they go back and probably they might have your contacts then, and they look you up and say, oh, okay, wow, she's like a global director of this company, but well, she acted so modestly and so normally. It's not like a threat at all. So do you think they would have a change of mind? They probably would be even more interested, knowing
Mhm.
that to peeling out the peeling the outer layers and finding out that this is not what they thought it would be.
Yeah, I wonder if, because if you look at it as such as you have to hide your accomplishments and your achievements, again, when we look at the system, when evolutionary, when we were looking for a partner, we were looking for somebody that was successful because that meant that there were good genes, right? And that he would be able also to protect and support the family and the children. So you're looking at success as being something that is important, evolutionary, as a woman towards your choice of a partner, of a man. So it's perfectly normal that men really expose their accomplishments. And I have nothing against that. What bothers me and saddens me is that as women, you have to hide your accomplishments in order to be considered as a partner. And you say it's a facade, but of course, also it is like a manifestation of who you are, of the fact that you are high achieving, that you are ambitious. So, my question is, in your research and in your experience with women around you, once you have this first hurdle, like you're not mentioning these achievements before you get to meet, which I perfectly understand, but once then you get to build up the relationship, is it like that these things then don't play anymore?
Okay,
I
yeah.
know a lot
I
of
mean,
women
this is
where it does play once the first love chemicals are gone and you get in real life, then it does start to play and you get power games and you get this frustration and you get a situation where men feel like dominated or discriminated or inferior because of the achievements and the accomplishments of women. So I have a
Mm-mm.
question in terms of, do we have to hide our accomplishments? Second question,
Okay. So
really?
it's much more, I think it's much more nuanced than that. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, what I was giving was like one side of the story. Like that's one
Mm-hmm.
type of woman because as I said, I have four types of women and each
Mm-hmm.
type of women, they deal with it differently. Yeah. I was always saying the women who choose to it's not called hiding, but it's called, yeah, I guess it is.
Undercover.
Yeah, yes, glossing over their compliments or downplaying. Yeah, the word that I
Yeah.
use is downplaying. Yeah, so the women who choose to do this, who initially downplay their achievements to get men's attention first, so that men would not immediately reject them. These types of women have stronger economic demands. Like these are women who have stronger economic demands, and this is what I term like the maximizers. Yeah, so that's the type of woman as the maximizers because besides the goal of marriage, they're also looking for the goal of economic achievement from men, right? So they also want to get something from men as well. These are more
Yeah.
traditional types of women, and it's not enough to just be satisfied in terms of their goal of marriage, achieving the goal of marriage, right? Their ultimate goal is to have marriage and to have a breadwinning man. Right. So they are very sure of what they want, and they don't mind slowing down in their careers upon marriage to take care of the family. So regardless of whether or not there's children, they want to slow down in their careers, not quit entirely, but slow down so that the
Mm-hmm.
man can take the lead and to earn bulk of the money. Because when we're talking finances in the family, that's a very important matter that cannot be disregarded. It has to be considered in very early days. It's not something we can disregard at the level of romance. Like, as you said, after that is gone, the chemistry, the chemicals are gone. It's like where real life kicks in. And
Yeah.
by real life, I'm talking materialism, talking
Mm-hmm.
finances, right? So these women, they know what they want in terms of their marriage goals and economic goals. So they're out to find an economically efficient man who can take care of the family and who's a traditional breadwinner. So hence that is why they're willing to give the men the side that they're willing to slow down, they're willing to be more domesticated because they want something from you, and it's responsibility to take care of the family financially. So
Yeah.
that's the maximizer type. But if we're talking about like another type of woman who has lesser economic demands on men, but who have higher demands on egalitarianism, we're calling them the satisficers, right? So their names are the satisficers because they are satisfied with marriage as their goal and but it suffices marriage as their ultimate goal with a man that whom they like, whom like they adore would be sufficient, would suffice. And they're not looking for a traditional breadwinner type of man. Right? So they're not
Yeah.
maximizing in terms of their demands. I want to find a companion, but he doesn't have to be a traditional breadwinner. I'm willing to take the reins. I'm willing to take up the family finances, and I'm willing to play the main breadwinner.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to slow down in my job, but he has to commit more to the family life afterwards. And yeah, I have
Yeah.
plenty of friends who are satisficers as well.
Yeah. And what are the other two types? You make me very curious.
Yeah. So another of the types is called the traditionalist. And this one is more in line with the maximizers. They also have the ultimate goal of marriage, right? They must get married. But the thing is they don't have as clear-cut goals as maximizers. No. Sorry, you can edit that. Please edit that out.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they don't have as clear-cut goals. They're not looking to maximize in terms of economic goals Actually, they are looking for a breadwinner type of man, except they don't have as clear-cut strategies as their maximizing peers. So
Mhm.
they're willing to slow down in the career, they're willing to be more domesticated, they're looking for a goal as marriage, and they're looking for a traditional breadwinning man, except the only thing that distinguishes is that they're not going to go as far as to conceal their accomplishments or downplay their accomplishments. They don't have as proactive or strategic plans to achieve their goal. So
Mhm.
what they are is traditional, except they're not as aggressive as maximizers.
Mm.
Okay. And the
Okay.
fourth type of woman is an innovator. An innovator type is someone who does not set out to have marriage as their ultimate goal. They're not against marriage, but they don't mind if they don't get it. They don't mind if they don't find a partner. But their ultimate goal probably is to maybe find a companion, or find, even if it's like a same-sex companion who can provide the companionship that a man couldn't provide. It may not necessarily be sexual, but like from female companionship as a group. So this is
Mhm.
getting more and more pervasive nowadays, like female companionship as a group, non-sexual or asexual, right? Or they're looking for having children. They're not willing to sacrifice their wish for having children, even if they cannot find a man. Right?
Mhm.
So ultimately, they're gonna do what they can because they have the financial resources to go to a clinic and get their eggs frozen and find a sperm donor, or find a male friend to carry their child with them to help them conceive a child. And they don't have to worry about this because they feel that they have the resources to do so and they don't need a man. So innovators are innovative in terms of thinking beyond marriage, beyond traditional conventional marriage as it is.
Yeah. And what about the fifth category who says, okay, then I
Oh, sorry,
just stay
fourth. It's
single?
a four types
Yeah.
of.
That's basically the four types that are trying to create this partnership or this companionship in those four different ways. Have you also encountered or researched about the category that says, okay, I don't go for either of those and I just stay single, happy single?
Oh, that's an innovator type as well. Because as I
That's
said,
also
innovators,
innovation.
yeah, it's like innovate. They don't care what society thinks. I
Yeah.
don't care what my parents think. I don't care about society. I don't care that my friends are all married. I don't have to.
Yeah.
I'm really like setting my own goals. So, like innovators, as I said, they're okay to be single, but they're not against marriage per se. Like they're not saying that I have resolutely decided to be single my whole life. It's just that I'm not proactive to find someone, and I don't care if I don't find someone. I
Yeah.
won't settle. I won't settle. I'm not gonna settle for economics. I'm not gonna settle for for finances or anything because I don't need those things, and I don't even need someone to have a child with. So
Yeah.
ultimately, they're like just setting their own rules.
Yeah. Because also that is very traditional, that you're looking for a partner or for a marriage in order to have financial security and in order to have safety to raise children. It feels, and please correct me if I misinterpret this, it feels like there's no other reasons why you would look for a life partner in terms also of more spiritual or intellectual or emotional relationship where you find somebody that sponsors and supports you, where you can have amazing conversations, deep conversations, where you can grow also as a person that is left out of this conversation until now. So what does your research shows there in terms of how women are also changing what they are looking for in a relationship? And I hope not only
Mhm.
the innovators.
Yeah, I think like for all of the types of economically sufficient, self-sufficient women who's like highly educated and who has good careers, they would automatically be looking at things that are like not the same as traditionally self-sufficient women. Because back then we're talking about before women had the chance to be highly educated or to have education at all, or before women had the chance to go into male-centered occupations, their only goal what in life was marriage to a man, because there's no hope for them to be self-sufficient at all. So even women who are middle class, who are middle class and come from families that they don't need to take care of, ultimately they have no other occupation that they could focus on but marriage, right? So there was no choice back then. But given the choice now, given the choice for even the most high-powered women, you will find that the most high-powered divas in business and entertainment, they're all engaged in serial relationships, whether or not it's marriage. Virtually no one wants to go it alone, right? So ultimately, it's just serial relationships or serial marriages, and it's the norm. So, but they have the choice. Like, no one can say that they don't have the choice to remain single, right? Because every one of these people being so high-powered, economically self-sufficient, they have all the choice in the world to remain single, to say that I'm gonna shun men for the rest of my life. But they don't. The thing is, they don't make that choice, and they still make
Mhm.
the choice to engage in a meaningful relationship. So the
Yeah.
thing is, the thing that we have to compare is, given the choice, back then there's no choice, then you must choose marriage. But if given the choice that you don't have to, people are still engaging in that.
Yeah. It's a very interesting topic and a very interesting conversation. I feel that in this area, there's still so much gender based and system and society based rules and regulations that are absolutely not adapted to how women have evolved the last decades in being more self sufficient. It's still like this old, even basically single women that say that they are happy and they absolutely intentionally choose to be single. It's like other people are judging that. Other people have an opinion about that. Yeah, that's not true. Although I don't know if you study tendencies, I was reading that it is a trend that more women are intentionally choosing to stay single and build a life as a single. And it doesn't mean that you're lonely or that you don't have relationships, but in terms of living alone and having your own organization basically of your life, this is something that slowly starts to get more, no, gets less judgment. Is that something that you also experience, or do you see other patterns or rhythms?
Yeah, definitely. So when I was doing my study, even like from like years ago, 10 years ago, I have interviewed women who I categorized as innovators, thinking that they live in China and it's like still a very patriarchal and very conventional, traditional society in a way, like even though it's opening up, but still the values, the traditional values, the Confucian values, they're still like the mainstay, right? These innovators, but they're still willing to think beyond the scope of convention or what people think. They're still thinking that, hey, if I can't have a child on my own here, because it's not legally sanctioned actually, and can't go like a single woman, you can't go and have a child on your own over there. But they're still thinking, well, I'll do it somewhere where in the Western world where it can be accommodated. So yeah, they're still having the courage and to think in that way, defying society's norms, as we would say. Definitely, even very early on, there are a growing number, like from thence on, there's like a growing number of innovators in
Mm,
society in the East
yeah,
and West
yeah,
defying society's norms. It's great because the more education you have and the more career achievement you have, the more confidence you have
mm,
in yourself to
yeah,
believe in what you want.
absolutely.
Hence, there's the innovator type.
Yeah. Do you also see innovators with men in that area?
Yeah, yeah. So if innovators, they would happen to find a man, it would have to, like the satisfiers, it would have to fulfill their gender role perceptions because innovators, as you can see, they're like they're the opposite of traditionalists and maximizers. They're more in line with the satisfiers. They're looking for their own self-fulfillments, and their egalitarian, their views on egalitarianism, those actually rule over their need for economic security.
Mhm.
So for these women, their number one aspect is, if they find a man, it has to be someone who's egalitarian, who would accommodate their views, and who are not asking them to quit their jobs or to slow down or to stay home, take care of the children, sacrificing their own needs and wants. So these women, they're very like self-assured about what they want. And so that is if they do find a man, it'll be an egalitarian man.
Yeah. Okay. Still, I feel that we have a long way to go, although we are, especially in what we call the Western world, we are very independent as women and considered successful when you're high achieving, when you want to combine that also with the relational aspect of your life, it is still a challenge, right? So, what's your, for our audience that is listening and probably trying to put themselves in one of these four categories?
Hmm.
What's like a general advice that you have distilled from your study, from your research, and from life in general for women that are on the market and not on the job market, but on the relationship market? What's like a top advice that you would like to share with them?
Okay, know your type. Yes, no, you need to know your type before you can go off to find a partner. Because knowing your type means knowing your economic views, your gender role perceptions, right? And basically, and what are the patriarchal difficulties you encounter in the market? So, what type of discrimination do you face? As I was saying, the different types, they also face different types of discrimination. So it's either you're blatantly rejected by men because of your achievements, so that's the most direct bit, or you are asked to subjected to patriarchal demands by your partner. So some of the women, they may not be single per se, but they're women who have partners, except they're just not married for various reasons. So they might have partners, long-term partners or cohabitating partners, but there's something wrong with the relationship because the partner is demanding them, that like the being passive aggressive, you giving them ultimatums. Yeah, if you want marriage, then I think it's better that you quit your job or you work part-time and you devote more time to the family. So they're giving them these like sly ultimatums, right? So the different types, they also face different patriarchal problems, right?
Mm.
Difficulties or challenges in their love lives. So I would
Yeah.
say that you need to think about what type you are. Like, are you like a traditional one, someone who's traditional in terms of your goal is to find a man who's a traditional breadwinner, and you would feel resentful if he isn't, right? So that categorizes you on
Hmm.
the outset to be a traditionalist or a maximizers,
Yeah.
right? But if you're thinking, hey, I'm not looking for someone financially as well equipped as I am, I'm looking for a man who is like egalitarian, who's not going to ask me to quit my job or is not suddenly going to throw it upon me out of the blue, not going to give me an ultimatum. But the deal is, he's not a traditional breadwinner. He's not the type of traditional breadwinner that like the traditionalist women choose, right? So I'm gonna have to settle, or I'm going to have to choose beyond conventional men types. I'm gonna have to choose a man who's not a breadwinner. And am I
Hmm.
okay with that? So you have to ask yourself, if I'm looking for egalitarianism, I have to, it's a give and take situation. I can't have both. It's not
Hmm.
possible, to be realistic. Okay. So
Yeah.
the advice that I'm giving is to know thyself, know thy type, and to be realistic about your expectations, because you cannot have both. It's not
Hmm.
possible.
All right. Wow. Wonderful. I think there's still a long way to go in terms of how society is adapting to the new kind of women and the new kind of leadership that is brought into the world. and that for us women, there's also still a long way to go in order to understand ourselves and understand the mechanisms and develop your personal strategy in order to manifest what you want to achieve based on these clear differentiators that you have brought so beautifully. Thank you so much, Sandy, for bringing this topic and explaining your research and sharing it with us as a wonderful piece to gain more insight and reflection on how we can fulfill our relationship aspirations in a similar way as we try to fulfill our professional aspirations. And I have
Hmm.
the idea, based on what you're telling, that both paths are interesting and challenging to navigate. So thank you so much for putting your clarity here in this area. Thanks a lot. And for the people that are watching or listening here, if you want to respond or react or give your feedback, I am extremely interested how this lands with you. So just connect with us. Let us know what you feel. We will follow the comment section of this on every platform that this episode is on. So let us know how you feel. Let us know your experiences. Let prove us wrong, right? Show us that it can be different, and maybe it's a basis for a new research or to add that in the research. So very interested in how you think. Sandy, thank you so much for being here. You rock. I really appreciate you and the work that you do, and
Thank you.
wishing you
Thank you for
all
having
the
me. Hmm.
yeah, you're so welcome. Wishing you all the best in your relationship and in the work that you do in that area. Everybody that was here, thank you for bearing with us. As I said, interested to find out how you feel about this and see you next time. Bye for now. Take care.